Welcome to Insights with Thomas Caldwell on Thursday, April the 2nd, 2026. Okay, Tom, we've talked enough about President Trump. Let's move on.
I wasn't going to mention his name.
Let's talk about Canada. What's your view about Canada and our governments?
Well, government, I have to take a look at all three levels. What didn't surprise me last week, the federal government and the provincial and the city government announced almost a $9 billion housing project in Toronto. Along the same time, there was $3 billion for Indigenous purposes. So here we're talking $11 billion is spent. Now, what I'm finding is that governments come up with these programs to correct problems that they have actually instituted. You know, $8 billion, why don't you cut taxes by that amount? For example, roughly 30% of the price of a house goes to taxes, and more than that when you're talking about regulatory delays, getting approvals to do things. Governments are the problem, and we've got to get away from this old type of government in Canada. We've got to be more efficient, and we've got to encourage the contributors, the people who are working hard, people who are trying to create businesses. That creates the jobs, and that leaves more money to help people who need help. But if you work on a static economy by just taxing, and regulating, you've stopped it. And that's what we've done. We've had no growth for almost 10 years. We have to reverse that stance. I've given Mr. Carney the benefit of the doubt for 1 year. There's been a lot of verbiage, a lot of traveling around, a lot of memorandums of understanding. There hasn't been one shovel stuck in the ground to do anything. We're still talking about dusting off old projects. What I'm suggesting is governments have got to strive to be more efficient. We live in a competitive world, not only corporately, but also from a country point of view. And governments have got to think about does our policy encourage people who are working, the contributors. And I don't think they're there yet in the thinking. There's still this old, let's buy votes with these super duper projects, bang ourselves in the chest as they did when they announced spending our money and our children's money, which is borrowing for the future. So we haven't got away from the old model, and we've got to change that, or we're just going to stay static as a country, because we've lost 10 years. And I haven't seen a dramatic change in terms of action. Lots of talk, not enough action.
Okay, so we've heard your views. What do you think?
I have more views.
All right, let's go to the next views. What do you think about the Canadian stock market and the possibilities there?
Well, I keep thinking of the phrase large promise and poor performance. Canada should be the destination of choice for world capital. Canada could be the Switzerland of the North. We have a legal system that generally works, at least for corporate world, maybe not for crime. But my point here is this is the place you can go for safety. And the potential of Canada, and everybody talks about our natural resources. Our real potential is our human resources. We have people with good attitudes, great educations, who want to do something. And if we don't have the capital available for them because this new generation is quite entrepreneurial. I see that with the university interns that we have in. And if they can't raise the money to try their ideas, to try out new things, they're going to the States. That's going to be our biggest export. And remember, the big companies aren't the innovators. IBM missed the cell phone, the PC, everything else. They missed the whole, that's IBM. Bell Canada has been, for want of a better phrase, a loser company for many, many years in this country. They weren't the innovators and stuff here. It comes from the entrepreneur. So part of the contributors, the most critical contributor group is the entrepreneurs. We do nothing to encourage that. If anything, we do everything we can to discourage it, from securities regulation right down to just regulations to do anything in this country. But I think the potential of Canada is astronomical. Now, politicians are never going to get it 100% right, but anything we do has to be an improvement over the last 10 years that we've had in this country. So if we get it even halfway right, the Canadian environment can be an incredibly positive place to be. Stable, semi-normal politicians, maybe incompetent, but still semi-normal, a rule of law, more or less. So there's lots of potential, and not to mention the resources, but again, natural resources, which by the way, we've sold out already, that's controlled by foreigners. And that's part of this whole taxing situation. So we got to do something simple. Cut taxes, simplify regulations. Do those two things, and I think the Canadian market will be on wheels.
I can't wait for your views next month.
I can't either.
Thank you so much for your insights, Tom.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. Bye for now.